Let's test out YouTube's new election rule retrieval and do a little update on some of those 2020 shenanigans, shall we? What do you say? Hopefully you'll remember the case of the truckload of missing ballots. Jesse Morgan drove a tractor trailer for a contractor working for the United States Postal Service. Shortly after the 2020 election, Morgan made these claims at a press conference held by the Amistad Project of the Thomas More Society. On October 21, 2020, Jesse drove his truck and trailer from Bethpage, New York to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, loaded with as many as 288,000 completed ballots. In addition, there were 2 large trays of mixed mail bound for Lancaster. Those were in the front of the trailer. Jesse drove the trailer to Harrisburg but was not allowed to unload. After a 6-hour wait, he was told to drive ahead to Lancaster without unloading at Harrisburg. In addition, the supervisor in Harrisburg refused to give him any paperwork to document his arrival in Harrisburg or his 6-hour wait, which normally would justify extra compensation. Jesse Morgan was perplexed by these instructions because 95% of the load was for Harrisburg, and that mail would have to be unloaded before anyone could get access to the Lancaster mail bins. After that, the Harrisburg mail would have to be reloaded onto the trailer and driven back to Harrisburg. Even for the government, that is slightly inefficient, wouldn't you say? As instructed, Morgan drove the tractor trailer to Lancaster and parked it in his usual spot. The next morning, the trailer had disappeared without explanation. The trailer and the ballots were gone, and no one would explain to Morgan or anyone else in this world what the hell had happened. Now, unfortunately, if you're like most folks I run into these days in the media and social media, and the powers that be with any pull have done their job and slowly manipulated you into thinking that something like this was just bullshit that Morgan made up, you'd be wrong. In its highly redacted closing memorandum, the Post Office Inspector General, OIG, does not deny that Morgan was a subcontract truck driver who took mail from Bethpage to Harrisburg and then to Lancaster. The OIG claims that Morgan identified the wrong trailer number and that his estimate of ballots could be much lower. The OIG also asserts, quote, Postal Service employees working on October 21st could not recall directing Morgan to proceed to Lancaster. Emphasis on the could not recall part of that statement. Now, maybe it's just me, but that statement sounds almost FBI level ignorant. Let me ask you a question. Do you think maybe the post office keeps a written record when it sends a big-ass tractor trailer from one city to another? Or does it simply let the truck drivers decide when and where to take their trucks? Now, there are other suspicious tidbits in the closing memorandum. In the document, the OIG acknowledged that a contractor in Rochester, New York printed 650,000 general election ballots that went to Pennsylvania. Of the total, 450,000 went to Philadelphia County and 200,000 went to Chester County. In explaining how the printing company delivered the ballots to the Pennsylvania counties, the OIG stated, quote, redacted name of printing company explained, but could not confirm the ballots for both PABOEs, Pennsylvania Boards of Elections, were most likely delivered to those respective locations by their delivery trucks or entered into the mail stream locally in Rochester, New York. Now, let's emphasize on but could not confirm and were most likely. So basically, after more than a year of investigation, the Post Office IG was still not sure if the 2 batches of printed ballots were shipped into Pennsylvania in trucks owned by the printing company or were taken to Rochester area post offices to be delivered in government trucks. Now, folks, maybe it's just me, but I would think that the post office would know whether or not it delivered the 650,000 ballots. And what about the printing company? It printed 650,000 general election ballots, which were probably worth close to around $200,000, because per unit cost for printing ballots is 29 cents in New York State. Yet, the company didn't know a year and a half later how it managed to get the ballots into another state. But don't worry, okay? According to the memorandum, more information is coming. Quote, redacted name of lawyer for printing company indicated that he would contact his client and confirm the transportation of ballots at a later time. Emphasis on the at a later time. I wonder when the later time will take place. After all, the statement was made in a, quote, final closing memorandum for which I could not find any updates. Now, I'm not sure when the closing memorandum, which was dated April 11th, 2022, was finally posted to the OIG's website. People have tried multiple times to get information using the right-to-know laws. Last year, it was said that the information was being withheld to protect witnesses, victims, subjects, and law enforcement personnel from harassment and intimidation as a result of their association with a criminal matter. But then the damn story changed again. Now, a month or two ago, as I explained earlier, the story changed again. It was reported that the information was being withheld to protect, quote, trade secrets or privileged or confidential commercial or financial information that, quote, could constitute an unwarranted invasion of the personal privacy of third parties, unquote. Now, if we asked again, the lovely and very sharp folks over at the post office will probably claim that the information vanished in a fire. I wish they would settle on just, one story consistently. Joe Hoft of the Great Way Pundit conducted a great interview of retired intelligence officer Tony Shaffer. Now, Shaffer discussed his investigation of Jesse Morgan, the truck driver, and Attorney General William Barr's threats that shut it down. Early on, Shaffer was asked by members of the Pennsylvania Senate to thoroughly investigate the Morgan claims. He formed a special team of, quote, former postmasters who spent a week trying to determine if Morgan's story was feasible, given normal post office procedures. They concluded that it was feasible and that Morgan was credible. Shaffer then asked an acquaintance, former Attorney General Ed Meese, I don't know. Anyways, he asked Ed to call Barr to inform him of the findings. According to Tony Shaffer, no more than 10 minutes went by before Barr called him to tell him to stop investigating. He said Barr spent 20 minutes essentially yelling at him in a threatening way. Shaffer asked if Morgan could get whistleblower status, and Barr, of course, refused. After that, Morgan dropped out of sight. Morgan later said that the FBI basically harassed him, was, quote, harassing my family, and wanted to know, quote, how I came on TV, unquote. Did they seriously investigate his claims? Not to his knowledge. Jesse Morgan to this day has never recanted or changed his story in any way. Final point here, and even the freshly trained, courtesy of our media skeptics of any irregularities in the 2020 election will find this interesting. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania certified its 2020 election, despite the undisputed fact that it had recorded 202,000 more ballots cast than voters. That disparity probably made the election certification illegal under Commonwealth law. Eventually, Pennsylvania found more voters, but not enough. Yeah, unfortunately, to this very day, it appears that there were 91,000 more ballots cast than identified voters. Now, of course, that number exceeds Biden's winning margin. It also lends credence to the claims of Jesse Morgan. But let's not be picayune, as the article reads. Just shut up and vote for Ron DeSantis. Mean tweets and all. Now, this War Room clip is from December 8th of 2020.
But where does it stand investigation-wise? Are people coming to you? Are authorities coming to you and say, hey, we need to sit down and interview you? What is going on to find out where these ballots are and what they were used for?
It's really funny that you say that. I've been interviewed. So I had a meeting with the FBI. was it the OGI or some agency from the postal office, and a few other people. And so basically the interview, okay, so here I am, the witness, basically gets like kind of like interrogated, I guess you would say, which is cool. I understand they're doing their job. But so I give them what I saw, what happened to me, what I had done, and what they want to do instead of focusing on the picture, they want to focus over here and try to figure out how I came on TV. It's really sad, to be honest.
Hold it. Explain that to people. They weren't so much focused on the trailer from that gets filled up with ballots in Bethpage, New York, and then carted into Pennsylvania and then goes missing after you're kind of given the runaround.
So
they want to know how people got to you and how you came on TV?
Yeah, so basically, this is just how it feels, okay? So during the interview, I mean, I can understand where they're at, but basically, it's the one gentleman's kind of like mixing up my words or didn't understand what I was saying, and I speak pretty clear. I mean, you saw obviously probably the press conference that day, and I didn't tell him anything different than what I told everyone that day. But for some reason, it was hard to comprehend that. But so I give this information, and then what they want to do with it, instead of investigating the information I gave, is go and start harassing my family, start asking questions of my family, how did I get here, or whatever, you know? And I just thought it was quite interesting where this gentleman's investigation took him, because it was, instead of going, you know, Bethpage, Harrisburg, Lancaster, the next day it was over here.
Well, did you feel that any of the investigation or any of the authorities have had any interest in going into the details to actually locate the trailer?
No, I honestly, God, I haven't felt like that at all. Nothing, and it's quite sad, and it blows my mind.
Most of this came by way of The American Thinker. If you liked it, hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Leave a comment down below. There's a PayPal link in the description box, so please put $1 in the bucket on the way out the door. I'd like to thank everyone for all your donations. They're much needed and much appreciated. Now, with all that being said, we'll see you next time.
All right. Come on, move. Move. Easy, easy.